Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. You know the drill, we're back at it again with the Reddit stories. So let's jump into it, shall we? Idiot neighbor eavesdrops and I win. My neighbor is an idiot, and we have been having issues with her from the start. 6-hour relentless dog barking 4 days a week for years, yelling at me for stealing water flowing downhill, dead rabbit on the doorstep, the usual property line arguments, emptying her toxic hot tub onto our property, lying by the hedges to spy on us, parties, noises, etc. ad nauseum. Just run-of-the-mill bad neighbor stuff. Eventually, we built a giant fence, and it has kept the bullcrap to a minimum. Both yards have plenty of mature trees. We have 3 maples over 150 years old, and a nearly 100-year-old birch, and a 12-foot cedar hedge. Add that to the giant fence, and daylight is at a minimum in our backyard in the summer. Idiot neighbor had 2 century-old trees and a very mature mulberry tree that hung over the fence in the only area that enjoys direct sunlight. Now, this part is entirely our fault. One spring, we built a patio there with light gray stone. The mulberry tree has dark purple fruit, and hers is extremely prolific. The week construction was finished was the week the berries ripened and began to drop in the slightest breeze. Sitting out there for any length of time and you would be pelted with berries, leaving purple stains like you were shot with a paintball. And sweeping a path was the only way to not step on them. If this only lasted for a few weeks, it would be tolerable. But mulberries are in season all summer. The amount of birds that feasted on the fruit and promptly deposited bright purple bird shit on everything we owned was unbelievable. Purple bird shit drip-dried everywhere on the patio and beyond. We started putting tarps over the entire patio to collect the bird dung-coated berries and emptying them into a bucket every time we wanted to use the patio. Remembering our neighbor's penchant for eavesdropping, I began to talk about mulberry wine, about how good my mulberry wine was, and how this year's bumper crop of mulberries was going to make so much wine, and how we were going to go on vacation with all the money I was making from selling my mulberry moonshine. Visitors joined in the act, claiming they could not wait for their allotment of my fabulous mulberry wine and offering bribes to be moved up the list. I do not make mulberry wine, never have, and would not start with mulberry bird poop wine. One rainy, early summer night, I heard and felt a tremendous crash. I ran into the backyard, and the largest limb from the mulberry tree was lying in my backyard. A chainsaw was sputtering on the other side of my giant fence. That mulberry tree was coming down at night in a rainstorm. More evidence of her idiocy. There was a bit of yelling back and forth through the fence. Me about her being a dangerous moron, and her to me about having a nice vacation without having mulberry wine to sell. She continued to cut down the whole tree instead of just the limbs hanging over our property. I laughed myself into the house, not quite believing my ruse worked so well, and revenge was finally mine. But that poor tree died needlessly. Barely a month later, a vicious storm blew through our area, splitting one of her mature trees in half and damaging the other so badly that it had to be removed. Now the idiot has no trees, and all mine are still standing. Aw, poor tree. I agree. Why would she not just cut the limbs that were going into OP's yard? Idiot for sure. I snickered at the beginning when OP listed a bunch of illegal and immoral things that this neighbor does, like stalking and leaving dead animals on his doorstep, like some sort of symbolic horsehead godfather shiz, then just follows that casually with just run-of-the-mill bad neighbor stuff. Like, no, good sir or madame, that is not run-of-the-mill bad neighbor stuff. That's a psychopath that should be in jail or a mental hospital. Glad OP got the last laugh though, both clever and satisfying. Lady demands that we let out her deadbeat baby daddy because of the panorama. This was from a year or so ago, but I couldn't help but remember it while talking to a new guy at work. As many of you recall, in the early months of the outbreak, no one thought that the V was a big deal. It's just another V. It will go away when it gets cold. Well, that was before prisons and county lockups started to become hotspots for outbreaks. After several deaths in state prisons, the governor of our state authorized for the judicial system to allow inmates, both pretrial and sentenced, who were at the highest risk of infection to be released. This set off a firestorm as we started to receive multiple calls a day from family members demanding to know when their loved one was going to be released. We explained to them that we, the detention center staff, had no authorizations for any releases. The only way to get such authorization was through the court system, so it was in their best interest to talk with a lawyer. Many of them, the inmates included, understood and reached out to their lawyers. But this one woman took the cake. She would call multiple times a day, demanding to know when her baby daddy, a drug dealer facing federal gun charges with no medical issues, was going to be released. At first, we read off the prompt given to us by the public relations officer. We're sorry, we have no information at this time in regards to the governor's order. Please reach out to your legal representative. But it started to escalate. Finally, one day during a busy court day, I was the one in charge of the booking office phones. Hello, name detention center. How may I help you?
Who the fuck do I have to talk to get my baby daddy out of jail?
What's the name of the inmate?
B daddy?
Yes, ma'am. He is in our custody, but he is a federal detainee. We don't have...
I don't give a shit what you don't have. The governor said that you guys are letting out inmates, so let him the fuck out.
Ma'am, the order applies primarily to those at severe medical risks and whose sentence can afford the dismissal. We cannot release federal detainees without a court order.
Why the fuck not?
It takes a signature for them to be placed in custody, and it takes a signature to get them out. If we were to release them without a signature, it would be considered an escape.
You're fucking lying. I want to talk to the sheriff.
I sigh, knowing I am talking to a wall, and transfer her to the admin office. Coincidentally, as I am hanging up, the guy in question is returning with the transport team and 2 other inmates from federal court. The guy is shaking his head and talking to the guards about how he got lucky with 5-year sentence instead of 20. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "Inmate, can you please explain to your ex that you aren't getting out of jail soon?" The guy just looked at me in disbelief before stating, "I told her I was taking the plea deal today. She just wants me to give her money again. I bet that kid isn't even mine." Another inmate just laughed and said, "That's why you don't stick your dick in crazy." I feel like this is an instance where the inmate went to jail on purpose just to get away from his crazy ex. I can hear the conversation now. "Congrats, B-Daddy! You got time off your sentence for good behavior." "Oh, no thank you. What do I have to do to get a longer sentence?" Who knew that prison was the closest thing to a safe place from Karens? But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed these 2 Entitled People stories. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!